Look, I thought the guys were definitely focused this week. Had a good week of practice. Everyone that's on the roster, the active guys, everyone has to be ready to play. And I would say watching the game last night, conditioning is definitely one of those huge indicators, or however you want to look at it, of how the game is going to turn out. And so, in saying that, everyone has to be ready to go. I feel good about the practice reps and how we split those up amongst the group. And our expectation for the game is to go out there, play good football, play with good fundamentals, and win. So.
About Gibson pop up on the participation report yesterday. It's limited with his hip. Is that a concern of his not being available?
Yeah, it's always a concern when we put people on the injury report. We'll see how it goes today. I will know more after practice today, but hopefully he's good.
With that opening statement, it sounds like rotations might be in play in certain positions. If so, is that set by drive, quarter? How much of that is pre-planned?
Well, I always tell some of it's pre-planned, but we always have to be ready to adjust during the game. And I always tell the coaches, you should know your position group better than anyone else. And just through, there comes the eye test. You can look out there, sometimes they tap their helmet, sometimes they don't. But it's up to the position coaches, as well as myself, to really see, like, this guy's tired, he needs a break, and to roll him. And that's how it's going to be here for the next few weeks, honestly.
Should we anticipate on the offensive line, whoever the starting five is, not necessarily playing every snap this first game here?
I mean, that's under consideration. I think you have to, once again, going back, like, everyone has their own level of conditioning. And so if someone's tired, then we'll get them out.
About Cindy, so we haven't seen him out there the past 2 days. Is there any update on him and whether you expect him this weekend and going forward?
Yeah, no update right now. We'll see, what today brings.
What does Sunday mean to you personally?
It means Sunday for me. I go to church on Sundays, but can't during the season. But Sundays for me is just one of those times where you have a 3-hour block of just. It's all about football, and everything else really doesn't matter. And, oftentimes we look at these guys as just football players, but they're men, they're fathers, they're husbands and all those things. And to me, it's just one of those opportunities where nothing else matters. And it's a very special feeling, and that's, one of the things when guys retire, they miss that. They miss that stuff. So it's a special day. Here, I got you. It's brand new. It's brand new. Yeah, it's all good.
What will you do beforehand to sort of get yourself?
I saw the tears start to go, and I was like, I got to help my guy out. Sorry, go ahead, Phil.
What will you do before Sunday, maybe, right before, just to make sure you're in the mind frame that you want to be?
Yeah, for me, it's, I'll meet with the coordinators one last time right before the game just to make sure we're all on the same page and, get the guys ready to go. And I'm not a big super rah-rah type of guy. I think you got to go out there and execute. And, you see these players sometimes, they're so hyped. And then all of a sudden, you're in play 10, they're breathing hard. Now what do you do? And that's the adversity that we've tried to simulate in practice. But when you get to the game, it's always going to be a little bit different.
Building on Mike's question, DeMarcus was in here yesterday saying that I'm ready. I've built to this moment my entire life. Kind of maybe what does Sunday in that moment mean for you, your first game as head coach?
Yeah, I feel like I'm built for this as well, and I feel like I'm walking in my calling. This is what I've told you guys since my presser. It's about developing people, and what I will say is, look, I want those guys to go out there and play well each and every snap and win a bunch of games, but I also want those guys to really be resilient when times are tough. And that leads to, after, post-football, the post-football career, like if you're able to deal with adversity and things like that when they're done playing, like those skills transfer. And that's kind of how I think about it.
Coach, you mentioned the importance of fundamentals. So when it comes to things like discipline, avoiding penalties and things like that, can you get a vibe when the team is locked in before the week, or is that something that you really can only see on game day?
I would say most of the time, look, there's nothing more important, first of all, wins and losses, but the week of practice, the week of preparation is always important. And as a player, there were times where it's like, I don't really feel too good about, whether it's the game plan or I really don't feel good about playing next to this guy. But those are, considerations every week as a player, as a coach. And I see it the same way now. So
With the 4 waiver claim guys, would it be too early to expect them to play week 1, or is that a possibility?
It's a possibility. It's a possibility. We'll see how it goes today.
When you were a player, did you have any specific rituals you did, and do any of those carry over as a coach?
So as a player, I just made sure I used the bathroom, and I wanted to be as light as possible. I said my prayer and kind of went out there and played. But, once again, going back to the question earlier, not to skip over that one, Karen, but going back to the question earlier about motivation and, being motivated and rah-rah, like, it comes down to discipline. It always comes back to discipline. Are you a disciplined football team? And the difference for me with discipline, it doesn't matter what's going on around you. It really doesn't. Like, you're going to do what you have trained yourself to do or been trained to do. Sometimes when you're motivated, look, everyone's motivated on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. Oh, I'm going on this diet. And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, you're done with it. But if you're a disciplined individual, which I try to preach to the guys now, you'll continue to go in the right direction. So.
I remember you earlier back in February and March on the radio talking about how this job so far wasn't as much X's and O's as you had expected back then. Now that you're actually preparing for your first game as a head coach, do you feel more confident or more comfortable in the role actually being in the X's and O's and overseeing the football aspects?
Yeah, so during that time, it was like really the first 2 weeks. After the first 2 weeks, it was all about football. It was all about X's and O's. It was all about scouting players, the draft process, the free agency process. So after the first couple of weeks, it was all ball for me. I feel comfortable with the X's and O's all the time, and I enjoy it. I do. And I also enjoy, like I said earlier, developing people and developing teams. So we'll see how it goes.
Jerod, you mentioned nothing's more important than wins and losses, but what would constitute a successful season to you? Do you have other measuring sticks in place?
No, for me, I really don't want to focus too far down the line. What I will say is the team that you see this week, you want to see the team get better each and every week and really playing our best football in December.
Coach, when you were on with Devon Gottschall this week, he said guys would run through a wall for you. Not even having a game yet, but hearing that, what does that mean to you?
It means a lot. It means a lot. So, I always talk about the story of when I became a captain in my second year in the league. And, my first year as a rookie, at times, the guys, this is when we had like 2-a-days and all that stuff too. The guys would send me in the coach's office and, people were kind of not scared to go in there, but let's send Mayo in there. And I would go in there like, Coach, the guys, they're tired. They can't be in pads today. And a lot of times he would send me out, like whatever, like we're going to do X, Y, and Z. But there were the few times where he's like, you know what, you're right. And I would go back in the locker room, and I think the guys recognized that I care more about them than my feelings or anything like that. And I would say it's the same thing here coaching. Like, I care more about their growth and their development more than anything. I said players win games and coaches lose games. I'm going to do my best not to lose those games and put those guys in the best position to be successful.
Jerod, I know this was months ago, but you got to interview Dan Pitcher before you opted to stay in Cincinnati. What did you learn about him at that time, and is there anything useful to Sunday when you face him?
Yeah, I've had a couple of interactions with Dan Pitcher. I think he's a fantastic coach. Will that help us on Sunday? Probably not.
What'd you learn that was new about him during that interview process?
Like I said, I had a prior relationship with him before the interview process, but he's very good at the X's and O's. And I would say he's also one of those guys that the players love. I would say that the players love, and he's very easy to talk to, and he's a good coach.
We saw a lot of illegal formation calls last night. And going back to the preseason finale, you guys had a couple as well. I imagine that it's going to continue to be a point of emphasis, but what does that look like for you guys? Is it a matter of sitting in the meeting room? Is it Coach Peters? How does that come?
Yeah, it's that we talked about it in practice. I had two guys on both sides of the line of scrimmage making sure those guys were lined up correctly. And once again, we always talk about we'll do business as business is being done. So we'll see what this crew has for us this week.
When you were playing, were you the type that would get nervous before games, and do you expect any nerves this Sunday?
There's a very thin line, right? A very thin line between anxiety and excitement, and I choose to go on the excitement side. I would say, through the week of preparation, you kind of gain that confidence and lose that anxiety or nervousness. Now, as a player, you're kind of nervous a little bit, but once you hit someone, like it's go time. It's go time.
You did say earlier this week you're going to try to be as forthcoming as you can with us on the injury front.
Yeah.
With Vidarian low, how has he looked in practice? What are you expecting for him this weekend?
I think, for us, we'll see how today goes. And I hate to be on repeat with that, but we'll see how today goes. But it's encouraging. And so we'll see what happens. I got to be upfront with you guys, but at the same time, not show all my cards.
Do you have family coming up for the game? Like, is your mom coming?
They'll be at the home opener. It's just me. It's just me. Unless they're going to surprise me. So that may be cool. I mean, it'd be cool to see my mom. Maybe she'll surprise me. But right now, I don't think anyone will be there.
I think Bill joining, as he called it, interface.
I heard about it. Some of the guys were talking about it, but I'm not going to talk about it.